Now the Spirit speaketh expressly, that in the latter times some shall depart from the faith, giving heed to seducing spirits and doctrines of devils, speaking lies in hypocrisy, having their conscience seared with a hot iron.
Hi, and welcome to another edition of Satan's Little Seasoned Nuggets. This is not a nugget. This is going to be a longer video. And what you're looking at in the background is actually a video I watched about Ariosophy, which was like the kind of the theology of the Nazis. It's a blend of theosophy and Aryanism. So isn't it weird? Because it's showing all the same architecture that the little Satan seasoners love to look at. I just thought that was kind of weird. And what's even weirder is I was looking to make a thumbnail for this video. Just looking for an image. I wasn't really sure. I didn't want to use the old Satan Little Season thumbnail I had before. And I didn't want to put anything outright, like a swastika or something on the cover of it. So I was looking around, look what I found. Okay, so I'm on this website of Hitler's artwork. And look. Architecture. Oh, it looks like Tartaria. Oh no. Look at this. Oh. Wow. What? Look at this. No! Oh, I wasn't even trying to find this. Look at that. Oh, Hitler's into Tartaria. What? No. So, if you're not familiar with the Little Satan Season, they stare at architecture a lot. That's a big part of their videos, is showing you the architecture. Because if it was the millennial reign of Christ and Christ already reigned, he must have built all those buildings himself or with the saints and the angels, making all these gory Gothic cathedrals and mountains and and castles in the mountains and whatnot. So anyway, I just thought that was very shocking. I was not expecting to find that. I just didn't know. They have the same obsession with architecture, which is very curious. So anyway, let's get on with it. I just going to add a few clips here from a couple of my channel updates where I have been talking about doing this. It's not just about Satan's Little Season. I'm starting out with one on the Satan's Little Season because in this particular case, it's about Aryanism and Hitlerhay and the Otzi-nays. And this video is definitely testing the algorithm and the free speech that we may or may not have, because I say all the things in this. I pronounce most of the words, and the point of this is, it is to expose Satan's Little Season in the fact that I think there is a lot of New Age occult and stuff being introduced because, you know, you can't believe anything in history, etc. And I will be following this up with a few more videos, probably mostly reading ones, just sharing information about the connection between Gnosticism and anti-Semitism and in the New Age as well. Just so you can see the perspective. I want to have a biblically informed viewpoint on all this. And I don't want to be on one side or the other again, just like with the left-right thing. So I have been thinking about, praying about, and feeling like I was supposed to address it. You know, because we have the very far extremes of anti-Semitism and pro-Zionism, right? So this is kind of like neither. It's not really either. I don't want to be either, okay? So, okay, I think that's all I have to say. I just thought that was very shocking to find Hitler's artwork. And I'm, like I said, I'll repeat myself. I'm going to do a multi-feature in case you're interested to see all the little Satan Season stuff kind of like all in one place instead of scattered around. So anyway, thank you for watching or listening. I already mentioned last time, I really don't want to go and get into that little Satan season can of worms that much. I really don't. And I started a video, which I talked about last time, because they sort of visited my channel. And I went and saw the guy's channel and was like, oh my goodness. And I think talking about it is important. So I'm going to work on that video. I'm going to finish that video. I have it almost done, but I had some second thoughts, and then sometimes I go, oh, maybe I shouldn't even make this. You know, I'm really not trying to start a war with somebody, but the fact is that this person is connected to another person, who's connected to another person, who's going on, you know, it just kind of goes, and that's how it spreads and stuff. And considering the kind of trying to explain how the Nazis and Hitler and all that were really the good guys, because, you know, everything in history is a lie. So this is, I feel like it's kind of serious. And so I'm going to kind of turn it into what I would call kind of like a unit study. When I used to homeschool, we would do this sometimes, where we would take a topic. It could be a topic from history. Let's just say the Renaissance or whatever. And you could cook some food that they cooked. You could learn about the art that they made. You could learn about the music that they made. You could read some literature from that period. You could learn about the science from that period. You could learn like a whole bunch of different things from that little topic. So that's what I'm going to kind of jump off of that. And I already said I wanted to do this Rainbow Swastika book, because I mean, we know there's like a lot of information out there about Zionism and the those spiritual leaders in the Kabbalah, the laws, you know, the 7 laws, and all those things that are important to have an understanding about. But when I've been doing all the videos I've been doing and the research I've been doing and talking about the latter rain and the Nar and all this stuff and the fake right, I keep coming up against the Nazis. Okay? Like, even when you go back to William Branham and the latter rain, there's a lot of that in there. A lot of that in the Klan, you know? So I want to show the another thing. Okay, so bouncing off of Little Season Guy, I have some of Steve Montgomery's book. He has a section on Gnosticism, so we're going back all the way to the 2nd century, Gnosticism and anti-Semitism. And I'm going to re-upload a couple of chapters from Constance Cumby's book about the New Age being the Fourth Reich, and also the Rainbow Swastika one. And if anything else comes up, I don't know. So there's that. Okay, so here's the story behind this video. I wasn't really sure if I was going to do any more Little Satan Season videos, but they came knocking on my door. So here we go. And we're going to use this as an example, as a case study, okay? It's not really about a particular person, but let's look into what they're talking about and where these things might lead to. So a couple weeks ago, I got a message from a friend that said, Laura Schrocki, you're about to be attacked by the other side of the Q network. Satan Little Seasonists. Yes, they remind me a lot of the letter after P. I guess I can say QAnon now, right? We don't have censorship anymore. So that message included a link to Twitter. I'm not on Twitter or X or whatever. And apparently, you know, people, maybe my subscribers, share my videos. That's fine. I'm not on there, so I don't know what's going on. So somebody who is, I guess, a little Satan Seasonist is angry that someone is sharing my video talking about the Hyperborean Satanist Little Season. Forgive me for laughing, but I said that wrong accidentally, but maybe it actually has some truth to it. So, okay, so I'm going to try to keep this in chronological order. Next thing, I had a few different people show up on my channel. I think it was 2 Fridays ago, like 2 weeks ago. And I can't find their comments. We don't need to know all their comments. But then this guy showed up. And I thought this was a good one to actually read. And I haven't actually read the whole thing. It was super long. And I was like, ugh, I just skimmed over it. And I was like, yikes. So let's just read what he said. Okay? He said, Hi, Laura. I just wanted to invite you to consider that the words of Jesus Christ are indeed true. As believers in Jesus, we are expected to believe in Jesus. When he gives a command or speaks wisdom, we should aspire to do as he says and to learn what he teaches. That sounds good so far. I am not sure where in the Bible Jesus said that he wanted people in future generations to await his return. Quite clearly, he was speaking to his own disciples when he said, "There are some standing here who will not taste death before they see me coming in my kingdom." Of course, many point to John, but he was only one man. Why would Christ say some about just one man? You see, Christ himself said that to those without eyes and ears, he speaks in parables. But to his disciples, he spoke plainly. When he said his kingdom was at hand, he meant now, at that time, not 2,000 years later. To believe anything but what he said plainly is a fallacy. Created by flawed men without the eyes and ears to see or hear the truth, as Christ spoke it plainly. If you had eyes to see and ears to hear, you too would see and hear it plainly. But religion has blinded and deafened the false church of today, which preaches the false doctrine of futurism. I see you regularly accusing people of being in a cult. Yet clearly you have never engaged with a cult before, so I have decided to introduce you to one so that you might reevaluate your position. Your efforts to lambaste and accost others from various walks of life speaks to a great personal insecurity that possesses you. Remove first the log in your own eye before you attempt to remove the speck from another. This ongoing effort of yours to expose what you call false teachers and wolves in sheep's clothing is nothing more than a pathetic attempt to validate yourself and the false doctrines that you so desperately cling to. The false and distorted religious doctrine of modern Christendom is failing and will soon be shuttered for good. What will come to prominence is a true revival of faith in Christ Jesus, believing his words are true. First and foremost, no longer will we attempt to justify the Bible by way of worldly means, but instead we will prioritize the words and teachings of the King of Kings as the only real truth. Okay, I can't really disagree with that paragraph right there. It is written, "Let God be true and every man a liar." Time to recalibrate, lady. I am not the first person who has come to you with the truth and presented it plainly. You will be held to account for your willful ignorance. My people perish for a lack of knowledge, but it is because they have rejected knowledge. You reject the words of Jesus Christ himself when you accept false futurist doctrines. You may very well cast out demons and perform many miracles in his name, but he will turn to you and say, "Away from me, you worker of iniquity, I never knew you." You have been given more grace than you deserve for going around acting like you get to decide who and what is true while distorting and confusing the words of our King. You and the rest of your drones operating in the vacuum of churchianity make me sick. You all wait around and do nothing as the world is consumed by darkness, all because you believe a satanic lie about why you should sit around waiting for an event that already occurred. The time for faith and works is now, in this world, which is wildly out of control. You are now without excuse. Repent and believe the words of Christ Jesus and cease your pathetic smear campaign against little seasoned believers. Against little seasoned believers. Or as God is my witness, you will be held to account for your idle words on Judgment Day, you foolish, belligerent woman. And here is my response. Nice try. And I'm not sharing this to make you feel bad or, for me or show you how, oh, my comments are so terrible. No, it's just we're getting somewhere. We're getting to something. And I just thought it would be interesting to start out with this person's opinion. So the next thing is that when someone leaves a comment, you can click on their icon or their profile picture and you can find their channel if they have one. And yeah, this guy has one. The Cult of Khan. Oh, look at this. This is very interesting. Yeah, so I go to his channel and I think that day, later that day or somewhere close to that, he made this video. And believe it or not, I actually listened to, I think, most of this video on like double speed. And I'm going to show you a little bit, just a little teeny bit of the transcript and maybe a few comments. Okay, so this is him talking. This is at 1:28. The scary thing, what is a swastika, right? We've talked about this. The swastika is a constellation pattern. Eris, the North Star, Ursa Minor, 4 seasons, equinoxes, and solstices. It's a sign of the kingdom.
Yeah, that's a ticket. And then, yeah, that's a ticket.
Dude, it's the sign of the kingdom. It's like the logo of the millennial kingdom. Okay, no wonder it's so hated. No wonder it's the most evil symbol you can produce, right? If I go out on the street with a t-shirt with one of those on it, someone's liable to shoot me, man.
Yeah, that's a ticket. You bet it is. You can guarantee on that. I'm not kidding you.
Pathological Liars Anonymous. We care, and that's the truth.
Okay, so here's what's really concerning is that when you tell people that everything you know, everything in history is a lie, everything you've ever been told is a lie. Even that Hitler was a bad guy. Okay, so that's just an example. Then you can implant just about anything and say, maybe it's this, maybe it's that, maybe it's reincarnation, maybe it's astrology. Maybe it's because the Nazis knew about the kingdom of Jesus already happened. And that's why history books now and all of mainstream media tells us that Hitler was a bad guy. He wasn't in the occult. He wasn't influenced by Blavatsky and all that Aryan Atlantis nonsense. No.
Yeah, that's a ticket. Yeah.
And of course, there's merch. Because why not? All these guys have Patreons and they have all these people supporting them. So here's one of his comments over here on the right. He said, even secular history considers the German government of the 1930s to be a Christian government. Really? Of course, later on they add that everyone was actually secretly satanic and evil, but the proof is in the domestic policies that the Nazi regime had instituted in the country. They say H-man was evil because he was doing away with the churches. I say we would be better off if we did away with the churches today. Everything he did right has been rewritten to make him a villain. They don't waste that kind of effort on their own actors. The true villains of history are called heroes in the lies we are told. Okay, so I know there's a lot of lies and there's a lot of, heroes in history that maybe weren't really heroes. But if you're just like hearing about this, looking into it or whatever, do you really want to go here? Do you really want to go here? I'm just saying. And here you can see a couple comments that are very supportive. It takes a high level of bravery to speak the truth. There was a lot of mostly comments that were good. Sorry I can't show you more, but Another thing, there was one person that was questioning that they thought the Nazis were into the occult and stuff. So I'm just going to leave this little clip here, and it is from my Christ-Hating Devils video, which I'll link below. And this is Michael Aquino, who left the Church of Satan because it wasn't satanic enough and started the Temple of Set. And he loved the Nazis because they're both Satanist.
Is one of a number of daggers which we may use in our rituals. This one happens to belong to the commanding general of the most elite unit of Germany's infamous SS, which was concerned with black magic and occultism research in general. Anything that it could find that had to do with the origins of the human race, destiny of humanity.
The perverted view of the occult held by Heinrich Himmler was of an evil magic that could help create a new master race. Wewelsburg Castle is where he performed his ceremonies.
I have been to the Wewelsburg, which still preserves Heinrich Himmler's ritual chambers to this day, and have conducted a black magical ritual in the so-called Hall of the Dead beneath the Wewelsburg.
Hail Satan!
Okay, so here is one of his followers. I saw him in a live stream just yesterday, and he came on my channel also, another one of them, and he's not even commenting on the Rick Joyner video. He's saying, I'm telling all my CIA friends about your group. And it just so happens that Rick Joyner has expressed quite a fascination with the H-Man himself. Did you know? Yeah, he did. He went over there and he was in the archives and talking about something so amazing happened there. And he's a Knight of Malta. You know, the guys that helped the Otsinays escape and everything. So, I don't know. Is there any connection here? Maybe? So, what are you doing? Trying to prove that you are a psyop, which I already thought? That was a dumb thing to say. And speaking of psyops and Nazis and Michael Aquino, he is the guy that was a very high-ranking intelligence officer, military intelligence, who wrote the paper Psyop to Mind War. So, there's that. Okay, so here's this guy's channel. He's got 1,000.2 subscribers. And I don't usually talk about anybody that's like a smaller channel, you know. So, what's the big deal? It's because this whole thing is blowing up really big. And here he is on this guy's channel. And what is up with all this sacred geometry kind of stuff? What's up with that? Look at that. It's all things conspiracy. And no New Age nonsense. I don't think so. This is the guy that's telling you that we are the rest of the dead and that you were resurrected from Sheol. Yeah, that's an original theory and a unique perspective. Okay, so maybe he is getting this idea from somewhere because it's not from the Bible about reincarnation, that the people here are the reincarnated from Sheol. Who would have been in Sheol? Maybe people that were living before the flood. Some of the people there would be people that were alive before the flood, right? And in Atlantean myth, which is theosophical as well, they believe that the Golden Age was the time before the flood, and then that flood destroyed this wonderful civilization. And so I came across this little article. It's very short, so I'm just going to read it. We can just say, what if, you know. Unlocking the secrets of Atlantean reincarnation in our modern world. Earth's epic tales. The concept of a modern civilization being an embodiment or reincarnation of Atlanteans is a fascinating and multifaceted idea that has captivated the minds of researchers and mystics for centuries. This notion is rooted in the belief that our souls or consciousness of individuals who lived during the time of ancient Atlantis are now returning to Earth, specifically within this current era. Helena Blavatsky, a prominent spiritualist and occultist from the 19th century, was one of the first to explore this idea in her works. She posited that modern European civilization is a renaissance or rebirth of Atlantean culture, suggesting that there was a significant influx of Atlanteans during the World War II period, which aligns with our current time. Blavatsky's work laid the groundwork for future researchers to delve deeper into this concept and its implications on global affairs. Edgar Cayce, an American mystic and psychic, also contributed significantly to understanding the reincarnation of Atlanteans in modern society. He believed that many individuals are being reborn from Atlantis, influencing world events profoundly. Furthermore, he emphasized the importance of comprehending the development, accomplishments, and weaknesses of ancient Atlanteans to cope with their influences in our present world. The Amalist group, mentioned by Dark Journalist, is a collective that explores such alternative theories and mysteries. Pause, like Little Satan Season, Tartaria, and Mudfloods? Alternative theories and mysteries? Unpause. They likely delve into various aspects of this concept, including whether disciplines like spiritual science or esoteric knowledge could have helped during the time of Atlantis, or if they would play a role in addressing current challenges related to Atlantean influences. Moreover, anthroposophy, founded by Rudolf Steiner, who was a follower of Alice Bailey and Theosophy, and Blavatsky and all that. Unpause. Founded by Rudolf Steiner, offers another perspective on this idea through its emphasis on spiritual science and understanding the esoteric background of ancient civilizations like Atlantis. By examining the chain of esoteric knowledge behind these advanced cultures, we can gain insights into their development, strengths, and weaknesses that may help us navigate our current world influenced by Atlantean forces. In conclusion, the concept of a modern civilization being an embodiment or reincarnation of Atlanteans is a complex and multifaceted idea that has been explored by various researchers and mystics throughout history. By delving into the works of Blavatsky, Edgar Cayce, anthroposophy, and other alternative theories, we can gain valuable insights into understanding our connection to Atlantis and how it may be influencing our current world. Okay, I would not advise delving into any of that. However, one thing I do talk about a lot here is about the New Age and Theosophy and how it's influencing the church. And this whole Atlantis thing is very theosophical, and it's all about how there was a golden age of the Atlanteans, and then there was a flood, and it destroyed that civilization. Okay, and they want to bring that back, which is the New Age, of the age of Aquarius and the Golden Age and all that. But these little Satan season guys, they are saying a lot of things that are really reminiscent of this. And if you haven't seen it, I'll put a link below. I did a whole video on Hyperborea, which is another kind of name for Atlantis, or it's one of the races of Atlantis. It's an area like in the North Pole or somewhere up there, and that's where these little Satan season people say Jesus is hanging out, waiting for Satan to come surround him, and all that. So there's a connection. There's a connection here, and I would also like to remind you that in the New Age and in a lot of the things I talk about, there is an alternative or an opposite story being told from what the Bible says. For instance, their golden age is the world before the flood, the antediluvian world that God destroyed because it was so evil and wicked. So he has a lot of guests, I'm sure with many different opinions on different subjects, mostly about his Nephilim clown book, but also Little Satan Season, you know. But here's just an example I thought would be interesting to point out, because this is Gary Wayne he's interviewing, probably about the Nephilim clown thing. However, I'm going to add a little clip here from a different podcast or YouTube video where Gary Wayne is explaining how the Little Satan Season is false.
Little season that is supposed to last, and I've heard so many different versions of it. And again, people can believe what they want to believe, but you shouldn't have to reinvent what the Bible says, and you should not have to leave out inconvenient passages. So they say this little season is something like, some people say up to almost 2,000 years, probably starting from the time of the destruction of Jerusalem. Some people say it's only 300 years. They have a different time frame on it because there's no scriptural reference that they're basing it on. And that they say the little season is when Satan has been let out and he's ruling the world again today, and that's why there isn't a memory of anything, except that that's not possible, because when you look at Revelation 20, Jesus and the saints are still ruling in Jerusalem. There's not this rule of Satan that's talked about. He's out to gather an army, and even the Armageddon army takes less than a year to be gathered, which Satan is involved on. So when we look at that word, the little season, they're taking it right out of its context. And so this little season, when you take that back to the Greek, that's little as in micros, which literally means small, short, little, and chronos, which means season. And that we get one other application for little season, micros, chronos, and that happens in Revelation 6, where they're told, the people waiting, the ones with the white robes are waiting before the throne, they're told to wait for a little season. So the biblical application, the furthest you could stretch that is 3.5 years. Season could also be understood as just a season or three months, but it's also could be defined as a period of time, which is why you have micros put there, as in a little season, small season. And in passages in the New Testament where it's a longer period of time, it's not left for granted. And so you get passages in Matthew 25:19, Acts 8:11, 14:3, 28, and 2 Peter 2:3, where it is a long period or a long chronos. And so it's defined, so it's not able to be expanded, but you have to ignore the other applications. And you know that word "and" that's used in Revelation 20 begins with "and" right after Armageddon and Antichrist and the false prophet are thrown into the lake of fire. And it says the word and that's the Greek word kahi. And it's used to define the when, as in the next thing that happens and happens immediately after. It's the same application as tota when Jesus is giving his chronology, which means then, as it's translated. It's the when. And is used throughout all of Revelations so that you know that this is the next thing that is coming, and it happens quickly. And is used throughout Revelation 20 in all of those things. And then this happens, and then this happens. It is sequential, and there isn't this big space, and all you have is he's let out for a little season. And you could, if you wanted to expand it to 3.5 years, I think you could do that. But I think it's probably, just as it would be time for those saints in the first 3.5 years in Revelation 7 that they're waiting for in Revelation 6. But I think we're looking at probably a year or less. And you have to, like I say, you have to absolutely butcher and mangle scripture to get there. And all that happens is when you challenge preterists and Tartarian preterism and all the other different nuances, is they come out with what I call chase the rabbit arguments. So people should not be caught into that. They never answer your challenge. They just say, what about this and what about that? And that's a Gnostic tactic. And why would he flee Jerusalem? When he's reigning there, and he let Satan out. So nothing about it makes sense, but it's crazy how popular the idea is, and it's a shame, because this is the type of ways that are going to be used to wedge Christianity and to deceive Christianity.
And here he is on Sam Tripoli, and now he is here with the little Nazi guy. And the con man here has since taken down his video. Luckily, I got some screenshots. I went back to get some clips, and it wasn't there anymore. I think maybe his friends really don't want you to know.
I want you to get together.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Look Into It. Tonight, we're going to get into Tartaria, but with a Jesus slant to it.
Bingo, Eddie, you said the truth. It's Tartaria, a Gnostic New Age idea with a Jesus slant to it, just like the New Age is. Everything about it, it's everything. And you want to know who else loves this whole Tartaria mud flood thing? In this episode of Satan's Little Season Nuggets, we're going to look at how Christ-hating devils like Sasha Stone and Scott McKay are talking about the same thing. They're not saying it's the kingdom of Christ. No, but they're all talking about Tartaria and how awesome it was, and showing you the buildings, the same exact photos that all these other guys are using, the same pictures. So I'm just going to let this play. You can see how they're all using the same exact photos and stuff. I know this won't really mean anything to the Little Season people, but if you're still wondering if this is a good idea, I thought this might be helpful.
Great Tartaria. The Khazarian Mafia won. They overthrew the Great Tartarian Empire, and the Khazarians now reign supreme. You want to know who's behind the Federal Reserve, the US Treasury Department, the Crown of England, the Crowns of Europe, the Vatican conspiracy, the Sabbateans? It's the Khazarian Mafia. It's a long story, I can't go into it here. But Wall Street, District of Columbia, the Crown of England, principally, and the Vatican are the essential tenets and pillars of the latter-day Khazarian Empire. We took down the Golden Age, we took down the noble kings, the hereditary leaders, the great glorious past where we had mastered free energy, we were activating psionic intelligence, we were on the cusp of a great enlightenment, and it was taken down. The serpent was allowed to come in one last time.
Did you hear what he just said? Let's listen to that again.
The serpent was allowed to come in one last time. The serpent was allowed to come in one last time.
This guy's a Gnostic New Ager. And if you don't know, in Gnosticism, the God of the Old Testament is bad, evil, and sometimes even maybe Satan. That's what they say. And that's another reason why they really hate any people connected to him. Okay, so who is this Christ-hating devil, Sasha Stone, blaming everything on that ruined the golden age of Tartaria? Of course, it has to be the Jews, right?
Vladimir Putin. 2013, he resurrected ancient Tartaria by releasing the original maps. That threw a spanner in the works. That's partly why he's so hated by the Khazarian Mafia, why they want him dead, why they're demonizing him, why they're trying to get a backdoor to Russia through the Ukraine with NATO military bases, why they're declaring war against this man. He didn't declare war against anyone. He didn't invade anything. That's all a lie. Old world versus new world. Why would they leave just that one shitty red brick building up and take down all the stunning architecture? That's a classic example. And to the right, that's just the top of that building. Trust me, friends, that goes hundreds and hundreds of feet underground. Okay, that's been obscured. Top left-hand corner, 1900, that was Paris. That was the skyline of Paris on the river. Today, look at it, 2017, just the Eiffel Tower, which is not what you think it is, incidentally, friends. They took down all of that exquisite ancient Tartarian architecture. Why? Because on the top of all of those buildings were dielectric antennas, attuned to harmonizing frequencies, radiant etheric transmission of life force, maintaining peace and harmony, equilibrium, health and wellness amongst living systems all around the built environment. That's what was being taken down.
I will leave a link below to my Christ-hating devils video about Sasha Stone and Scott McKay, so you can know that when I say that, I'm telling the truth. You can hear him call Jesus a dead man on a stick.
Ancient Tartaria, engineering feats which we could not even manage today. And all around the world, in nations, every single culture, every single nation on earth has got these secrets. We're not talking about them. Why not? Why is the National Geographic and Discovery Channel and the curricula in our schools not teaching children about this glorious golden age? Glorious golden age.
Glorious golden age.
The past, because it's been erased. It has been detonated and soft demolished over the last century. We mastered free energy technology. We mastered etheric transmission of cold electricity centuries ago, friends. We were powering up the planet centuries ago, thousands of years ago on this technology, very advanced technologies.
And of course, that's QAnon as well.
In the last couple of hundred years, connected to the 9 gates of hell, subsequent to 1452 in Henan, Mexico, with a papal flag, and began the downgrading through mass genocide, we fell into a great state of forgetfulness. The fall of man, really? How about the genetic intervention and systemic downgrading of man? Giants were amongst us as recently as 150 years ago, 120 years ago. They were very prevalent all around the world. All cultures speak to them and remember them. We found femur bones of creatures 30 feet high, skulls. Many photographs survive showing giants. End of the 1800s and the early 1900s. They were still genetically amongst us. Then they've been bred out of existence. Okay? Bred out of existence. There are thousands and thousands of images of them still that survive. All cultures, all faiths. Why are we not learning about this? Ancient Tartaria, the last remnants of the Great Golden Age, which were destroyed between the Napoleonic Wars and the end of the Second World War. We all but destroyed probably 95+% of all the forensic evidences. Because the Sabbateans, the invisible masters, knew full well that if we woke up to the Genesis, the true story of who we are, what we are, how majestic we are, all of these, we were told, were the part of the great exhibitions that occurred in Chicago and London and Paris and Rome, all around the world, in cities last century. And we're told that they were just built in a few weeks, erected as a great exhibition, and then taken down after the exhibition. No, the exhibitions were set up around these massive monuments and architectural wonders, and then they were destroyed. The world wars came in, and the fog of war destroyed them. It was an erasure, an erasing of our history, of the Golden Age. The Golden Age. That happened before we had internet, before we could actually communicate across the divides. So all of these extraordinary feats of architecture, were nothing to do with great exhibitions, friends. That was a calculated lie, just like it's a calculated lie. Why do we have these still remaining all around the world, giant doorways? They were because giants used to enter these portals. They lived amongst us, worked amongst us.
So in the New Age version, it's giants instead of angels. They just took this old conspiracy theory and slapped some Christian words on it. I'll leave a link below to the full video. There's only a few more minutes, but I'm going to cut it short right here.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Look Into It. Tonight, we're going to get into Tartaria, but with a Jesus slant to it, with author and YouTuber, independent researcher, Paul Stobbs. What's up, Paul?
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm doing well.
Okay, so now we've gone from the con man, the cult of con guy, to Paul Stobbs, the understanding conspiracy guy. And now he's on here with Eddie Bravo. Oh, who's Eddie Bravo? Well, he goes on Joe Rogan a lot. At least he used to. This thing is kind of like creeping out there into mainstream. And I don't think it's a good thing. Here's a few examples of Eddie Bravo on Joe Rogan. He's on there a lot. And with Alex Jones. He's like his sidekick. Okay, so here is Eddie Bravo's channel, and he has 234,000 subscribers, and there he is, 13 days ago. So Eddie Bravo has two channels. This one is just called Eddie Bravo, and then he has one called Look Into It. Okay. And here he is with Paul Stobbs. Was Jesus the King of Tartaria? Featuring Paul Stobbs. I wouldn't, as a Christian, like listen to anything Eddie Bravo has to say. I don't. Oh, here he is with My Lunch Break. That's another topic. You know, I don't think there's anything wrong with speaking to a person of another faith, but it's just weird that Eddie Bravo's his profile pic and what he puts on his videos is this like third eye thing like this. And then where Paul Stobbs puts this interview on his channel, he puts his little weird Platonic sacred geometry symbol on where the third eye is. So, just saying. And now here is a comment. I did watch or listen to most of this interview, but here's a comment, and this kind of blew my mind. It says, "This is why Trump is so concerned with buying Greenland and acquiring Canada. Holy crap, it all lines up with what he is saying here." Yeah, because what the people who subscribe to Little Satan Season, they believe that Jesus is in the North Pole on the flat earth, waiting to be surrounded by Satan and his minions. He disappeared. And here we are back at the Cult of Khan, who took this video down where he's posing as Hitler on the thumbnail. But here he is explaining what it must be like at the camp of the saints. And he's using this, I think, Disney cartoon about Atlantis to explain what that might be like. So that's kind of weird, isn't it? You think that has any connection to all these other things? And since he did remove this video, and I didn't have any clips, just the transcript, he was talking about the Aryans and, talking about their community like they were the Aryans, because that was the millennial kingdom and stuff like that.
The Thule Society, the occult foundation of Nazi ideology. The Thule Society was a secretive occult and nationalist group that played a crucial role in shaping early Nazi ideology. Founded in Munich in 1918, it combined elements of Germanic mysticism, anti-Semitism, and extreme nationalism. The society was obsessed with the idea of a lost Aryan homeland, possibly connected to the legendary Atlantis or Hyperborea, and sought to uncover ancient Germanic wisdom. Thule members believed that a secret spiritual force empowered the Aryan race, and that through ritual and discipline, they could harness this force to establish a new Germanic empire. The society also had a paramilitary arm that engaged in violent political actions during the chaotic post-World War I period. Crucially, the Thule Society served as a meeting ground for many of the figures who would later become key players in the Nazi movement, including early members of the NSDAP. While Adolf Hitler himself was not officially a member, many of his closest associates, such as Rudolf Hess and Dietrich Eckart, were deeply involved. By the time the Nazi Party gained power, the Thule Society had largely faded into the background. However, its influence lived on in the mystical and racial ideologies that underpinned the Nazi state. Some researchers suggest that certain Thule beliefs, such as the idea of an Aryan super race, were carried forward into SS rituals and policies.
An ancient occult legend that tells the story of a continent somewhere in the North Atlantic. There lived a race of super beings who had fallen from grace through evil and vice. The land was called Atlantis. A great flood wiped these beings off the face of the earth. But before they could all be destroyed, certain priests escaped by boat, eventually finding their way to India and the high peaks of Tibet. These escaped priests, believed by mystics to be the original race of Aryan godmen, who were said to be the ancestors of all European people. Certain German mystics claimed the Atlantis myth was actual history, their proof that Aryans were the chosen people, descended from the super beings of Atlantis. and that they had lost their powers by mating with mere mortals. By mating with mere mortals. Heinrich Himmler, head of the SS, funded many expeditions to Tibet, searching for evidence of their ancestors. In 1946, in a post-war interrogation by the U.S. Army, the SS scientist who led one of the Tibetan expeditions described his first meeting with Himmler. He said, Himmler mentioned his belief that the Nordic race did not evolve, but came directly down from heaven to settle on the Atlantic continent, and that ancient immigrants from Atlantis had founded a great civilization in Central Asia. In Tibet, villagers were subjected to full-body inspections by Nazi researchers, looking for what the party called Aryan physical traits. They believed that once they had proven that their ancestors were gods, it would be a simple step to recreate this race of Aryan godmen.
Okay, so let's get this straight. We got Paul, the Nephilim look like clowns guy, and we've got the Cult of Khan, little season guy, and he is saying history was a lie, and the Nazis and Hitler were the good guys. The Aryans are like the kingdom people, or whatever. But it seems like the Aryan myth is that these were god men that came down from heaven and mated with humans to create this super race of god men. So something doesn't make sense, because they're exposing the Nephilim, and then this other guy here is talking about the Aryans, who, if you take their word for it, what they say about themselves, it sounds like the Aryans were descended from the Nephilim. That's what it sounds like. Okay. So I think maybe I will be doing a little Satan season multi-feature, because I did a bunch of short videos. It won't be that long, I don't think. And if you're interested, you don't have to watch if you don't care. But as you can see, this is becoming more and more common, and it's actually growing a lot. And personally, this is my opinion, that I think there are a lot of different ways to introduce different New Age, Gnostic, occult ideas into Christianity, which has been happening forever. And I think this is one of them. And I also think it is a way to make people who believe in Jesus to accept, because of conspiracy overload, just about any idea that comes along. Okay. And also to put you into a framework or a mindset, a worldview or whatever, that you're not preparing yourself for what is to come. And I think that's problematic. I think that's actually very serious. And last but not least, I'm going to read to you a short post that was sent to me by David Bass from the Rise channel about Little Satan Season and where it maybe came from. This is called The New Chronology in Satan's Little Season Theories, Inventions of the Jesuits. The main assertion of the adherents to the New Chronology hypothesis is that through calendrical error and politico-religious meddling, several centuries of forged manufactured history have been inserted retroactively into the Western calendar, artificially extending modern history into a 2,000-year period. In essence, the proponents of the theory believe that the Anno Domini dating system has been fabricated and that the period of the early Middle Ages is a concoction. This theory has been popularized by the works in Anatoly Fomenko in recent times. However, the claims of the New Chronology theory have an origin in the late 17th century. The first proponent of such a theory is the Jesuit scholar Jean Hardouin. Jean Hardouin, 1646 to 1729, was a French Jesuit priest and a classical scholar. He was a professor of letters and rhetoric, and later became a professor of positive theology for 15 years at the Jesuit College of Louis le Grand in Paris. He also became librarian at the same Jesuit college. Harduin spent all of his adult life at the college and authored several works espousing the theory, for the which is why Harduin is commonly referred to as the intellectual progenitor of the new chronology hypothesis. In Christian circles, the new chronology hypothesis is commonly paired with a nuanced form of preterism to create the Satan's little season theory, a theory that states that the millennial reign of Christ already occurred, but it was erased from history when Satan was loosed for a little season, Revelation 23. Preterism as an eschatological system was first expounded and popularized by Jesuit priest Luis de Alcazar in his 1614 work Vestigatio Arcanae Sensus and Apocalypse, often being regarded as the founding text of modern preterism. It is quite the feat when two Jesuit psyops collide to form a conspiracy subculture that permeates in both New Age and Christian camps. And that is from the Jesuitocracy Exposed. Okay, well, I think I'm about done here, and I could add more, like the Anatoly Fomenko guy, who's this crazy Russian mathematician that changed everything in history. I knew about him. I didn't know about the other Jesuit guy. And I have looked into that, and I've read some things. I don't think he was even a Christian or believed in the Bible or anything. He said Jesus was born in, Crimea. Everything's Russian-centric. It's like Russia, Russia, Russia. Everything is about Russia and Tartaria. So, he says that Jesus was born in Crimea, and it was born in like the 12th century, and he was like a combination of different historical characters. He likes to smash all these different historical people together and all this stuff. Anyway, but that's kind of where they're getting this timeline thing from. And it's just ridiculous. So I'm going to end this video here. I will be doing a little Satan season multi-feature where I put a whole bunch of videos together. Most of them are really short. I think it's good for us to know about. I know this is not going to change the minds of any little Satan season believers, probably. But if there are some people who are have heard about it or come across it and they weren't really sure, there's a lot more to it than meets the eye. They say that they just believe the words of Jesus and take them literally, but they let in all these other things, and they are ripe for deception. So anyway, thank you for watching or listening.
Run.
There's just one name that can keep you out of hell, and it's the name of Jesus. The name of Jesus. The name of Jesus.